Hi guys, and welcome to another bowling analysis video. So today we'll be looking at the Under 12 Masters live stream from the Singapore Bowling Federation YouTube channel. And this is from the 52nd Singapore Nationals and 7th National Youth Championships, which is going on right now. So it started on the 28th of May this month, because as of recording, this is the 30th of May still, and it will last until the 11th of June. That means the Singapore Nationals will be starting soon after the completion of the National Youth Championships. So you can see all this at singaporebowling.org.sg, which is Singapore Bowling Federation's main website. You can access to that. So look at this, and you can see the schedule here, tournament schedule. So you can see that for the National Youth Championships, it started on the 28th of May, and obviously the under 12 have played their blocks, their qualifying blocks. Then today is the Masters after 2 days of qualifying, and yeah, so right now we're looking at is there girls? Let me try and load more of the lanes. Wait, give me a moment. Right now I've loaded until lane 15 and 18. And let's take a look at 25 and 28 as well as 29 and 30. Okay, yes, the girls are playing alongside the boys, but it seems that there are less spots for the girls as well. So more spots for the boys, maybe there are more entries for the boys, I guess. Okay, so just to highlight, we want to highlight the oiling that they are bowling on. So I'm not too sure for this Masters whether they are bowling on pattern A or pattern B. Let's see if it indicates here. Lane assignment, registration form, match play schedule, tournament schedule. Is it listed? Squad H. Okay, it is listed here. The qualifying ones are oiling pattern B, oiling pattern B. Okay, I would assume the Masters are also under oiling pattern B. Wait, it's all oiling pattern B on the schedule here. None of it says oiling pattern A. Okay, there's oiling pattern A here, oiling pattern A here. That's interesting. So most of it is played under oiling pattern B. So let's take a look at oiling pattern B, which I feel like it's a little bit more forgiving compared to oiling pattern A. Okay, so this is the oiling pattern A. So for the oiling patterns as well, they're also all on this website as well. We can see where is it? Oiling pattern. So we just click on this oiling pattern A, B, and C, right? Let me just load up my Epic Pen. Right, A, B, and C. And as we can see from the schedule, most of it is being played under oiling pattern B. So just compare A and B for the National Youth Championships, because I think C is only for the Open, which is the Singapore Nationals. So A is this pattern, and they're using fire conditioner. So it's a medium distance pattern for the 4 feet. Fire or ice under the 10A, 10B. So it's like just the name of the particular oil conditioner. Fire is just the more typical lane conditioner that they use in Singapore oiling, Singapore National Championships. I think maybe it's a little bit more available, easier to get, but it also dries up a little bit faster, and it provides a little bit more friction because compared to the ice conditioner, from what I've heard. I believe I mean, I haven't actually experienced the difference between fire and ice myself, but from what I've heard is that ice would be a little bit more viscous, a little bit thicker, so it will last a little bit longer, but it also provides more skid to your bowling ball. So fire is less skid, provides more friction. That means your balls can read the lane a little bit easier. So you can see that both pattern A and pattern B are medium distance patterns, with pattern B being a little bit shorter at 42 feet, pattern A just 2 feet longer at 44. So in my opinion, pattern B is a little bit more forgiving. Let's look at the ratio. So when you look at this kind of Kegel oil patterns, right? One thing you have to pay attention to for the difficulty of, like, if you are judging how difficult or how easy this pattern is to score on, would be this ratio here, the outside ratio compared to the inner middle inside ratio. So what this means when it's 2.75 and it's 1.08 is that in the middle, obviously, is 1.08, but when you go to the outside, the difference in the ratio from here to here is the middle is 2.75 times heavier volume, where the outside middle is only 1 times the volume. So typically, I think this would also be referenced to, I believe, the oil per board, somewhere around there, volume oil total. Okay, difficult to just explain it, but just take it in simple facts is that the outside, right, is all is one layer of oil, and the inside in this case is 2.75 layers of oil. So the inside is obviously thicker than the outside. So this would give a little bit more allowance to bowlers, where if they miss to the inside, their ball will skid a little bit longer. If they miss to the outside, because the outside has less oil and the ball will hook a little bit earlier, so you still have a chance for the ball to hook to the pocket. So it's a little bit more forgiving when there's this kind of a ratio. So the higher the ratio, the higher this number, the more forgiving the oil pattern, the easier it is to score. Because the more oil you have in the middle here, let's say you have a very thick layers of oil in the middle, that means if you miss to the inside, your ball will skid a lot easier and you will have less chance of overhooking. So you still hit the pocket, or you at least still hit the head pin for maybe a cross pocket. And a cross pocket, you can still get a strike from that. But if the ratio of the inside is super flat, right? Imagine if this is 1.0, like this is totally flat or at all, that means outside is 1, the inside is 1. If it's totally flat, then you have 0 allowance when you're at all when playing the lane. So that is a very difficult pattern, and that is very famous. The US Opens in the past, they use this very famous flat flat oiling. And it's super difficult because if you miss just a little bit, like just a hair, right, or like a tiny fraction at your target, you will like either miss the pocket or your ball will overhook and stuff like that. So bowlers have to, like the PBA bowlers that bowl on the US Open, they have to resort to very creative means to create their own miss room on the lanes by using balls with certain surface, or like then lofting the ball, right, bowling very deep inside. Very those were strategies which which are very unconventional, but it was what they had to do in order to get a decent score on those kind of lanes, because it was very difficult for them to get their ball to get the proper shape to hook to the pocket the way they want it for the strike that they want. Okay, so now that we established that the higher this number, generally the easier the pattern is. So you can see that pattern B is 2.75, and if you look at pattern A, it is 2.59. So pattern A is a little bit harder. And why pattern A is a little bit harder is also this. If you look at the center portion of the oil, it covers more area, right? The flat part in the center portion covers more area, where on pattern B, the center part covers less area. So there's a larger area for this slope here. So the more slope you have here, the easier it is to score on this oiling pattern, in my personal opinion. That means it's more forgiving. Then you can see that in pattern A, so this is pattern A, right? There's a slope and it levels out a bit, and then it levels out a bit. Whereby in pattern B, you can see the slope is a little bit more gradual. Like it almost levels out a bit, but it almost has this very gradual slope here. So the more gradual your slope, the easier it is to score on this particular pattern. Whereby the flatter your oiling distribution, that means if you see plateaus like this, it's a little bit more difficult, because your ball, when it hits this plateau, right, there'll be no allowance at all. So if you hit this area where the oil is totally flat, and you miss your target, then your ball will totally go to a different place when it reaches the pins. So it'll be a lot harder to score on pattern A. Pattern A is a lot more challenging. And pattern C is actually for the open category, which, well, I mean, I'll just briefly talk about it. So if you look at this, it is a little bit more easier as well. It's 3.14 on the outside compared to the inside. But if you look at the inside is pretty broad, right? So the inside is not as broad as pattern A. I believe pattern A should be the most challenging one. Pattern C looks to be somewhat forgiving as well, but the outside looks to be really tough, because the outside is totally flat, and there's just a little bit of allowance in, these are the board numbers, right? On the 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 board area, just a little bit of allowance in between these 5 boards, but the inside is totally flat, the outside is also totally flat. So even though it's 3.14, I would argue that this pattern C is also quite challenging as well, because no allowance at all on the outside and no allowance at all if you play in the middle. There's only a little bit of allowance if you play in this gradual slope area between boards 11 and 15. So this is also a pretty interesting and pretty challenging oil pattern as well for pattern C. But pattern C is only for the national, the Singapore national. So maybe I'll cover that when we play, when they telecast those masters or the MQs in maybe a later time. But right now, coming back to the masters itself. So let's look at some of the games for our use. Also, I really like to watch the National Youth Championships because it showcases the best youth talents that we have in bowling in Singapore, because this is the national championship, so to say. So from all the youths from all around Singapore, at least those who are confident enough in their skills to participate in a major competition would come and join, and it will be like a good convenient place where we can look across the board, see all the youths, and we can compare their styles, look at how they're bowling, and whether if there are any like talented youths and so on and so forth. So it's a really good scouting ground for like our Singapore Sports School, right? For example, because Singapore Sports School is a secondary level school, so they are looking for promising youngsters at like the primary school level, which is under 12, which is this one, under 12 level, and they will try and pick up these kids and to see if their parents are interested in sending them to Singapore Sports School to groom them to become future national bowlers, right? To win glory for our country. So this particular lane, this camera is out of focus, and there's nothing we can do about it, I guess, because I am selecting the HD version on the screen, but it's still blur. Okay, let's first look at this pair, which is I think there's a problem with the internet connection for this particular camera. By the way, I think they're using iPad tablets to record on the back of every lane, every 4 lanes actually. So maybe some Wi-Fi connection issues for this particular pair of lanes. And we can see Coach Michael is here, Coach Alex from Strike, and I really don't know the name of this particular coach, but I've seen him around. He has been coaching quite actively as well. It's kind of difficult to see because the stream keeps pausing, right? So yeah, the stream keeps freezing. Okay, good spare. I can't really see his finishing position because the stream didn't capture it. Let's see if there's any interesting. Oh man, it's really tough. Okay, I might have to skip this. Yeah, connection issue for that is too rough. Oh, we have a two-hander. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at this young two-hander here in blue, right? So we have a two-hander here. Let's just take a look. Okay. Obviously balance is not great. So balance is not great, and I think that has to do with his swing. So why he's falling off his balance? Maybe I'll try my best to explain it, because he's swinging his ball inside to out, right? Yeah, maybe can I have an arrow? He's swinging his ball inside to out. Like because he's on this right side, what this boy should be doing is swinging his ball from front to back beside his body. So instead, he's swinging the ball from inside his body to outside. So he's actually creating like the swing plane is going this way. Like when he releases his ball, the natural instinct is to complete the swing going to his right side of his body and then swing towards the gutter, which he has to actually do a lot of correction in his body. Like he needs to correct his swing right midway throughout his backswing to do like this motion, correct the swing in order to send it straight. And this abrupt change, the swinging motion in his body, makes it a lot more difficult for him to keep his balance. And you can see he falls off his balance here, right? So here, so some very typical errors, right? As well, his balance knee is actually not bent at all. Like it's totally straight. And ideally, right, what you should be doing with your his sliding knee, right, should be bent like this, right? You should bend it at a kneecap so that you're lower to the floor, lower to the bowling approach, and you have better balance. So it's not bending his knee, so that's the typical mistake. And I think his balance arm is also not fully straight as well. Yeah, he did try to keep it straight, so he did try to, but know that lack of balance, right? Being too high up because it's not bending his sliding knee, as well as that sort of like weird swing plane as well, is leading him to lose his balance. So he totally lost his balance here, and he did try to keep his balance arm straight, but since it fell off, he had to, his body had to reposition to balance himself. So typical mistakes there, but easily corrected. But I like his swing. It looks good, and his rotation looks good as well. He has the basics right when it comes to rotation. He looks really small, really young. So it looks like he's way, way under 12. It looks like he's maybe like 8 or 9 years old. So looks really promising. So hope it can just change those as he, get more games in bowling. Oh, we have another two-hander. This one from BIS. I don't know what's his name, but okay, let's take a look. Very nice, very nice, very nice. From what I can see from his backswing, really good. Let's look at his approach as well. So I think Coach Jareen is actually coaching the youth as well in bowling insights, which doing really good job. So good. Bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder, and if you look at his stance, right, when he's standing, his back is mostly straight, mostly upright, just sloping a little bit forward. As he gets older, because he looks really young as well, he looks like he's maybe 10 or 9, maybe 10 years old is my guess. He's probably not 12 yet. He should keep his back a little bit more straighter, but this is quite good as well. He doesn't lean forward too much. Legs are in pretty relaxed position, so you can see his right feet opening up here. So this means his hips, right, is tilted in this way. So the right hip is a bit further back as compared to his left hip. So this would allow his right side of his body here to be a little bit more open. So it creates a little bit more space for his ball to come through when he swings. And when you look at his swing, it's actually really straight. So let's take a look at his swing. Okay, see, really straight swing, right? So his swing, you can literally like draw a straight line, like from here to here, right? Almost like from here to here. Kind of hard to illustrate here, but basically his swing is a pretty straight line from front to back. It warps a little bit behind his back, not that great, but it is still relatively straight as compared to the other young boy bowler that we looked at earlier. So really straight. And if you look at his projection, is release. So some little minor bad habits is that he pops up while he is lifting the ball. So this one can be corrected with time. So ideally, you want to like stay stable when you release the ball, right? So you don't want to like bob. You don't want your upper body to bob up and down because that would make your release a lot more inconsistent. Especially your aiming is a lot more inconsistent as well because it's harder for you to keep your eyes locked onto your target because your eyes are moving up and down instead of being like stable and flat. So then obviously small mistakes here as well, not keeping his balance arm totally straight. But from here, I think his knee bend, I can't see it because our the coach here is actually blocking my view, but it looks like his sliding knee should be well bent. So sliding knee well bent, then his trailing feet should be somewhere around here. So well extended as well, good extension of his non-sliding feet, or we call it the trailing feet. Then obviously here his shoulder should be this way because I'm being is blocked by the head of the coach. But generally I can imagine the shape of his body by looking at the orientation of his body parts here. We can probably see it. Okay, so here he walks it off and you can see that it projects out and he gets a strike. A very good shot. So his ball also drew a very nice line here. So he managed to project his ball very, very well from here and it went into the pocket like this for a strike. So playing a pretty deep inside line. So he's playing around the fourth arrow and then curving the ball just a little bit towards the end, angling it in. So very well done. This is very good physical game. So very promising for a kid this young. His name is that Ian? I don't know. I've never seen him bowl. For first time I've seen him bowl. So yeah, I think this is Ian that's bowling right now. Yes, kid. Nope, send it a little bit too far. See? So we have a few of the kids from strike. A lot of the kids from strike actually. So very well done. Okay, good fundamentals, good fundamentals. So let's take a look at this bowler here, right? To the right, I believe this is Kaysen. Kaysen, good fundamentals. The rotation is not there yet, but let's take a look at his fundamentals here, right? Okay, yes, really good solid fundamentals. Balance arm perfectly straight, right? Perfectly straight. So bowling shoulder lower than his non-bowling shoulder. And look at his trailing feet. Well, relaxed as well as extended to the right for balance. The only thing is that maybe his sliding knee is a little bit too straight. Maybe can be bent a little bit lower, that's all. But if you look at his head level as well, looking well into the break point of his target. So his fundamentals are really solid. Rotation wise, obviously not a lot of rotation. So, but that can actually be worked on with time because for one hander, especially for boys this young, because their hands are really small, it's a lot more difficult for them to get underneath or at least into the middle part of the ball to generate the rotation. But as they grow older, where their fingers grow longer, their hands grow bigger, and their arms get stronger, it'll be a lot more easier for them. So I'm not too worried about having their ref rate and their rotation at this young age. As long as they can get the most important thing for kids this young, I believe, is always their fundamentals, their balance, how they orientate their body, their finishing position, right? How they're balanced at the finishing position, their trailing feet, their balance arm. Those are the most important things that we want to drill into the young kids. Because I coach a primary school as well, and that's my focus when I coach the kids there, because once they have equipped with very good fundamentals, as they go high up, if they want to continue in the sport, they go to secondary level or they go to like teenage like JC level and so on, they will just get better and better because they have a solid foundation to build their skills upon. Okay, and let's take a look. Okay, are they done? So this is done. This pair is done. This pair is just finishing up. Oh man, stream has been freezing as well. I don't think it's an issue on my side. Yeah, because some of the streams are smooth, some of them are not. Like this keeps freezing, but this is fine. So let's look at this pair. Okay, we have quite a few kids from NSRCC. Okay, so one of Coach Michael's kids, Jaden. Oh, I think I reviewed Jaden before on my channel. Yeah, he was actually bowling two-handed. I remember, I think his name was Jaden. So now we're seeing Jaden actually participate in the National Youth Championships. That's nice. So let's take a look at his game. Yep, really good fundamentals. So Coach Michael is really good at drilling fundamentals into his kids, right? Excellent, excellent. His kids always look like really solid in terms of their balance, in terms of their finishing position, and that's what I really like about Coach Michael's system and his way of coaching. Okay, let's look at his drift. Right, very little drift. So Jaden, I think, walks relatively straight. Very little drift. That means the less drift you have as a bowler, that means the more accurate and more consistent you are. And let's take a look. So I think he's walking very straight. I noticed. Yep. So just a little bit of drift, but mostly his sliding feet ends up the same as where he was standing initially. So just almost totally zero. I think it's almost zero drift, right? Almost zero drift. So it ends up in that position. Let's see if we can see his finishing position here. So the only grab I have with so Jaden's, when he delivered his shot, his balance arm was actually relatively straight. So let's look at some of his good fundamentals, right? Bowling shoulder lower than the bowling shoulder, body angled to the right, right? So this helps to create a space here. So if I'm going to draw, so by angling your body to the right and tilting your bowling shoulders to the right, you create this, maybe a smaller space. You create this space on the right side of his body. So you have this space to swing your ball. So your ball doesn't collide with the hips. So this is why we teach this stance, so to say, this finishing position. So I think his trailing feet is blocked by Coach Michael here, but his trailing feet looks like it's something around here. So well extended to the right, well balanced. The only gripe is that his sliding knee isn't as bent as we would like to see. So we would like the sliding knee to go a little bit lower. But other than that, fundamentals are fantastic. If you look at his eyes as well, so his head level, Jaden looks like he's looking far into the break point. So he's aiming further down the lane, which makes him more accurate and more precise bowler, because the further you aim, right, the further you can aim down the lane, the more precise you are with your targeting. Because it is, if you hit, so just to maybe explain, if you hit, like if you aim like right here, right on the foul line, if you miss like one board here, it's going to be a big difference of like 5 to 6 boards at the end. But if you aim further, right, if you're aiming at like 3 quarters down the lane, and then if you miss like a one board 3 quarters down the lane, you're only missing like maybe 1 or 2 bots at the pins. So obviously it's a lot harder to hit a further target, right? So it's a lot harder to hit that target 3 quarters down the lane. But if your aiming point is that far down and you hit your target that far down, you're going to be a lot more precise, and there's going to be less errors in your bowling. You're going to be more consistent. So you're generally better bowler. And I think he makes a spare here. Oh, almost makes it spare. So, but very good. Jaden, very good, very good fundamentals there. Very good physical game. Just that his sliding knee, if it can be lower, it would help him to be a little bit lower to the floor. Would actually help him to actually get more leverage on the ball. So helps him to get a little bit more power, a little bit more ref rate as well. Okay, so let's take a look at this bowler here on the right hand side. So we have this bowler here, strike. What's his name? If I can see, probably Angel. Because looks like it's highlighting there. Okay, so not too bad, not too bad. So some of his fundamentals are there, but as usual, so some of the things to highlight is that sliding knee is not bent, right? Sliding knee is really straight, not bent. So things which are good is that he almost manages to keep his bowling arm almost straight, but this is pretty good, pretty good bowling arm extension, like almost parallel to the foul line. Nice dip in the bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder, and leaning to the right as well. So creates, like I mentioned again with Jaden before, creates this gap for Angel here to swing his ball, right? So really good. Trailing foot is actually kicked up instead of just extended. So this is actually not that ideal. Instead, what we would like is maybe the trailing foot to come a little bit lower. So I believe why he kicks it up is because he actually doesn't bend enough on his sliding knee. So if he actually bends more in sliding knee, he gets lower. He wouldn't feel the need to kick up his trailing leg here. So kicking out the trailing leg is more common with two-handers because a lot more weight is displaced on the right side. Less necessary, almost unnecessary with one-handers actually. Much less common with one-handers. But so far pretty good. So I'm seeing all the bowlers. Ooh, so this bowler here, very strong, powerful game. We're looking at this bowler from Strike Academy here on the right hand side. So let's reverse a little bit. So he's obviously much taller. Maybe he's 12 or almost reaching 12. And much bigger kid. So larger hands, longer fingers, can grab the ball more, right? Can get underneath the ball more. So that helps him to generate more rep rate. But if you look at his form, so first and foremost, let's look at his stance, right? So keeps his feet together. So let's see here. Keeps his feet together, right foot just slightly behind, opens up a bit. So the different thing for one and two-handers is that two-handers actually will have to keep their right feet a little bit more angled, a little bit more behind the left feet, because they want to open up their hips more in order to let the ball swing through. But for one-handers, you actually don't have this disadvantage because you're only using one arm to swing. You don't have to open up your whole right side of your body for both arms to go through. So one-handers would don't have to angle their feet as much, which helps them to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more accurate. So bowling shoulder slightly lower than the non-bowling shoulder. And his what I really love about him is his back angle is really straight. So that's good, really straight and upright. And you look at his targeting. So here is really looking at the lanes, right? So it's looking at here and then he's probably aiming down the lane next here. So this is the 2-point targeting system that Singapore is teaching right now. So you want to like draw 2 points, have 2 points on the lane, and then imagine a line that goes back to where you're standing. So then you want to roll your ball along that line to hit your target at the break point, which is the break point is should be around here, 3/4, that generally 3/4 down the lane. Break point is where the oil ends. So yeah, so really good stance there. And if you look at his timing, I can't really see his timing, but interesting high backswing. So this is considered a high backswing for the modern game. I haven't done a video about it. Maybe I should do a video about it in the future. Like talking about why high backswings are actually out of fashion in the current, the current so-called meta of 10-pin bowling, right? Like in all the youth bowlers as well as the PBA bowlers or the professional bowlers now, you don't see high backswings anymore as compared to like maybe 20 years ago. So we're going to talk, maybe I want to make a video and talk about it, like why we no longer teach high backswing. But this is actually considered a relatively high backswing for today's game because it goes above his head. Most of the time, like the backswing of one-handers would go roughly around here, around the head level. Like close to it will go up as high as about the head level of the bowler. So now whenever the bowling ball goes above the head of the bowler during the backswing, we will actually start calling it a high backswing. In the older times of past, like 20 years ago, what we would call a high backswing would be something like this, right? It goes up really high. Like the very famous one will be Michael Fagan, if anyone can remember from that time, a professional bowler on the US PBA tour. So that has high backswing goes as high as like somewhere around here. So yeah, so this is considered uncharacteristically high backswing. So in order to achieve such a high backswing, he has to actually tilt his body, like his left shoulder down. But this is an interesting concept because now he actually rotates his shoulder to create quite a lot of power at the release. Yep, so he rotates his shoulder, and then when his shoulder goes down, I would say that it's actually not that necessary, the rotation of the shoulders, because rotation of the shoulders will actually lead to inconsistency. But let's look at how he generates his power, right? I can see quite a decent amount of rev rate. Yes, so at the bottom here, you can see that his hand, I can't see his fingers, but at least it's in the middle portion of the ball. And you can see it extending. Yep, so it extends, his hand extends through. So you can see him stroking the ball from here to here, from when he's released, from here all the way to here as he strokes the ball up. And he follows through, goes quickly above his head for that power, right? And that rev rate. And you can see the ball goes pretty fast. I think he caught the outside oil, but I believe just from eyeballing it, I think the rev rate on that shot is pretty good as well. So pretty good rev rate. But what I was saying is that I dislike this rotation of the shoulder. Like, do we have a freeze frame of this? So even though the rotation of the shoulders allows him to get the high backswing, like this rotation of the shoulders, having that left shoulder tilt forward a lot. So because when he has to release, he has to tilt his shoulders back like this. So that means he's rotating his shoulders from back to forward, and then his left shoulder from forward to back. So this rotation of the shoulders adds to inconsistency, and you can find that he's struggling to hit his target breakpoint here, even though his beginning stance looks really good. During release, it looks good, but he actually missed it down the lane, right? So he actually hit like bot 5 here. So he sent it too far to the right. So his consistency would actually suffer with this kind of shoulder rotation. And even though the power is really good, but I would say that the shoulder rotation is not necessary for him to get the amount of rev he has on the ball, because I think the rotation is actually from his follow through, his release and his follow through. How quick his releases and his follow through is, it's actually generating most of the rev rate. So it doesn't need that rotation of the shoulders to generate that power. So really good fundamental game. His finishing position as well, I think pretty good, but as usual, sliding knee not fully bent. So balance arm good. Trailing leg kicks up because he actually accelerates his follow through very quickly. So in order to balance so much that's going on in the right side of his body, he's actually kicking up his trailing leg in order to counterbalance that huge movement going on the right side of his body. So I can understand why he kicks up his trailing leg in this release, but you can see that his sliding knee doesn't bend enough. So this is a very common issue, right? Like we've looked at quite a few of the under 12 bowlers. A very common issue with the under 12 bowlers is that their sliding knee doesn't bend enough. So I think this is common among youngsters because their muscles in the legs aren't very developed yet. So they aren't that strong. So their knees and their thigh muscles aren't that strong to support their weight. And then so they tend not to want to bend too much, because when they bend too much, they'll find that they'll feel weak and then they might collapse to the floor, right? So there's a very common issue with younger bowlers, like primary school bowlers as well. A lot that I've coached also has issues with trying to keep their knee flexible. I have to continuously remind them, and they probably will have to go into their teenage years, like secondary school and so on. Then when they develop stronger muscles, they have to do a lot more strength training in the lower half of their body in order for them to like have a proper knee bend. So common issue, but other than that, really good, really good, powerful game. Very, very nice. So very good fundamentals there. Okay, how long has this video gone on for? Wow, it's actually more than half an hour. Do we have the girls here? Yes, we do. This has finished bowling, so we have some here. Let's look at some of our female bowlers. Okay, so the first female bowler that we see here, the girl in pink, I believe this is, looking at the video, is actually Charisse. So Charisse here, pretty good fundamentals, just standing straight. Okay, so spine tilt a little bit more to the left-hand side than what we would normally recommend for a one-handed bowler. I believe it's because Charisse is a little bit on the wider side, especially her hips takes up a little bit more space. So I believe the solution the coach has actually tailored for her is that to lean a little bit more to the right-hand side. So probably similar to a two-hander, the theory is to create a little bit more space by having the hips be a little bit more tilted. So actually, what I would personally recommend as a coach is that instead of opening up, tilting the body so far to the left hand side, just all we need to do is to just open up the hips, like have her left hip position further back as compared to her right hip. So just to open up her hips and then have the spine a little bit straighter. So have the upper body angle a bit straighter, because what I've actually noticed is that when we get such young bowlers to do so much upper body tilt in their stance, over time they actually develop pains on on their sides, right, of their abdominals, because this creates a lot of strain on the abdominals. So it creates strain on both the left and right abdominals. So in Cherisse's case, it might actually cause more strain in her right abdominal, because that abdominal muscles are stretching every single time she picks up a bowling ball. So yeah, it might not be good for her body at this rate. So it's actually better, what we really recommend is to keep the back straight, so it puts less strain on your left and right abdominal muscles. Okay, so during release, actually not too bad, not too bad. So bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder, as usual, good fundamentals. Balance arm straight, parallel to the floor. Obviously sliding feet not fully bent again, so same issues with a lot of the youth bowlers, but trailing feet I believe is extended around here. So nice and relaxed, and extended trailing feet extended to the right because she's a left-hander. So really good fundamentals from Charisse here. I think she hits a target. Pretty good rotation, almost gets a strike. Okay, so there's a lane change. Let's look at the other side here. Have they started bowling yet? Nope. Okay, Kyra. So we can see Kyra. Okay, Kyra is pretty a very orthodox bowler, right? So her style doesn't generate a lot of power, Oh, that's I think one of the coach I see, I recognize there. I believe that's Nicolette wearing the NSRCC coaching jersey. So Kyra here, interesting form, very orthodox bowling. Like this is the kind of bowling style you would see like maybe in the 1970s or 1960s. So mm, not really a mistake, so to say, but when she developed her game further, right, she'll probably learn that she should tilt her bowling shoulder a little bit more lower down to get better leverage on the ball. So if we look at her fundamentals now, bowling shoulders are very straight, but feet are relatively close together. So I think that Kyra is also a bit newer to the game, but yes, a bit newer to the game as well. So her upper body lean isn't that ideal as well. So let's take a look here. So ideally, right, what you should do in the third and fourth step is that your upper body should lean forward. So if you pay notice to Kyra's form, you will see that there's a lack of upper body leaning forward. So upper body stays relatively upright, right, even through the third and fourth step. So as you're going through the third and fourth step, ideally, as a bowler, your upper body should lean a little bit more closer to maybe like 50, 60 degrees down. But in Kyra's case, she's almost upright, right? She only leans forward a little bit. So she can lean forward a little bit more here. So she lean forward a little bit more. And so let's look at other fundamentals. So I can't really see her trailing feet, but balance arm relatively straight upon release. So as she releases the ball, the form is good. No, bowling shoulder is lower than non-bowling shoulder, but just that the lack of upper body lean makes it a little bit awkward. So if you like the upper body lean, you don't get a lot of momentum transfer from when you start the stance until your finishing position. So you're not leaning forward enough during your finishing position. So you don't get as low to the ground as possible, because when you lean forward more, obviously your head and your upper body is lower to the ground, right? So as you're lower to the ground, your ball will also be closer to the ground. So when your ball is closer to the ground, your release will be smoother as well. So she lacks the upper body forward lean. So I think that she's probably still a little bit newer to the game. So there's a very upright, orthodox style, but can develop further. But at least her fundamentals are really good. Very stable. She doesn't fall off her shot at all. Very stable, good balanced position. I can't see her knee bend, but you can see that her shot doesn't have a lot of power, because if you can't lean forward and you can't bend low enough, right? Your fingers, if you find it more difficult to get your fingers, to the middle or underneath the ball in order to generate that power and ref rate. So she doesn't get the benefit of that ref rate. The ball doesn't rotate or doesn't create a lot of shape, and it's going to be a lot more challenging for her to score. But such a bowler like Kyra, right, would find it a lot easier to spare, because her fundamentals are really solid. They're very square to the line. They walk relatively straight. I think she walks totally straight. And I don't see any drift as far as I can see here. So no bad habits at all. Really good fundamental to build on for her future game. So these games here haven't started yet. Okay, I think we're seeing a little bit more advanced bowlers here. Okay, so if we're talking about body lean forward, yeah, our girl here from Strike, I think this is Natalie. Yeah, demonstrates it well. So you can see that she leans forward a little bit too early, right, on the second step. So this is what we call early body weight transfer. So typically we would only advise bowlers to start leaning, both for one and two-handed, especially for one-handed bowlers, to start leaning when they start their placement of the ball, when the ball starts swinging down during the second and the third step. So in here, Natalie actually moves her upper body. Okay, so when she's standing here, upper body is already leaning. Oh wait, this is too big. Already leaning like slightly forward, which is no, not ideal, but it's still relatively straight, already starting forward. And I think she starts her upper body lean early. One, you see, on the first step, even at the completion of the first step, she starts leaning forward already. So this is what we call early upper body weight transfer. So leans forward too early, and ideally she should only start leaning forward here when her ball goes into motion, goes into the ball placement, and then she start leaning forward. But because she already starts her body lean early, she actually leans forward too much. But obviously, it's good to have the upper body lean as compared to the earlier bowler I mentioned, Kyra, which has a lack of upper body lean, right? But in this case, she's leaning forward a little bit too much. That's because she started upper body lean early. So in order to correct this, usually we would remind the bowler to remind themselves to keep their body upright during the first two steps and only start leaning forward when they feel their ball start going down after they do their ball placement. So to delay their upper body lean, and then that should also decrease the amount of their upper body going forward. So other than that, so because she leans so much, you will see that she pops up here because she's too low to the ground. So during her fourth step, because she's so low to the ground, right? So she's leaning forward too much, too low to the ground. Her ball is going to hit the floor at this rate. So in order to combat that, she actually pops up her body here. So as you can see, the body pops up in order to not have the ball crash into the ground and hurt her fingers. So she pops up, and this popping out of her upper body would lead to more inconsistent results for the bowler. But other than that, after she releases, her fundamentals are pretty solid. So good fundamentals here, balance arm really straight, parallel to the ground. Trailing feet, not as extended as we would like, because now she's actually fully upright. Because she has actually extended her upper body because she leaned forward too much, right? And in order to counteract that, the body tells the body to, you need to get up, man, body. If not, your ball is going to crash into the ground. So she gets up. So now she's fully upright. And because she's fully upright, she doesn't have a lot of knee bend, obviously. I can't see her sliding knee. It's actually blocked by, I think this is, I forgot, Coach Adam, I believe, from Strike Academy. So it's blocked by Coach Adam here. And yeah, you can see here. There you can see that her feet is totally upright. There's no knee bend at all because of that popping up motion that I described earlier. But her rotation is really good. Like her ball hooks to the target, so still generates pretty good rotation, pretty good movement on the ball. So this is no good fundamentals from Natalie here, but needs a little bit more work, just a little bit more fine tuning on that early body weight transfer, and she can be a lot better, a lot stronger. Because that early upper body weight transfer is leading to a lot of like bad habits at the end of the finishing position, like the popping up and so on. But I think they should be able to be solved as long as she works on her, on delaying her upper body weight transfer. Oh, Alethea. Oh, Alethea, is that one of the? Yeah, I think I recognize that name. It's actually from a very, very prestigious bowling family. Is that their younger sister? They might be, because I know two of their elder sister, which has gone through sports school and gone through, the national team, and the sisters all start with A on their names, and she looks very similar to them. She might be their younger sister, so I'm not 100% sure. But this family, the Altea family, has a very good bowling tradition. Like from the two sisters I know, both of them made it to the national team. Both of them made it to Singapore Sports School, and they are both very good bowlers. So maybe this is their younger sister continuing their tradition. And they have managed that. Like, let's take a look at her game here. Very solid fundamentals. It's really solid fundamentals. So back straight, relatively straight, a little bit tilted to the right, but not too much. So bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder. Eyes looking at target, right? Looking at the break point. Good fundamentals. And as you see, she leans forward. Correct. So she leans forward just as the ball goes down, goes into that third and fourth step. So this is the so-called the ideal amount of for upper body lean that you will want. Not too much, not too little. So it's about 50 degrees generally if you're going to measure from the upright position. And balance arm goes up a bit too high, but still okay. Then as she goes into the finishing position, so the only flaw with her finishing position is that the balance arm goes too high, right? Ideally, we want to see the balance arm just parallel to the foul line. to the floor, like what we see a lot of our young bowlers doing earlier. So as she releases, wait, can I take a look at her release? And as she releases, she goes actually deeper down. Yep. So as she releases here, it's actually pretty good. So bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder. I believe the trailing leg is around well extended to the left here. Very good knee bend. So as compared to a lot of the other kids, at this age group, she has excellent knee bend, right? Strong thighs, strong legs, excellent knee bend. So she gets really low to be able to deliver and provide leverage on her shot. Ball speed is a little bit slower, but you can see that even her spare ball, right, hooks so much that she misses her spare. So very strong fundamentals, right? Really strong fundamentals as she grows into like secondary school. So like Althea here, like I would say she would be a prime candidate for Singapore Sports School because her fundamentals are excellent. She has a lot of potential to generate a lot of power as she gets a little bit older and a little bit more experience. All she needs is probably a little bit higher tempo for higher ball speed to match the power that she's going to generate later on in her bowling career, because just that her fundamentals here are really solid. Tempo is a little bit on the slower side. If you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Fundamentals are really good. But because she's still young, she's still like under 12. So they actually don't have the experience to generate the tempo yet. But once she's able to get a little bit higher tempo, higher cadence, she's going to generate a lot more ball speed and a lot more revolution. So she's going to be a fearsome bowler. Unfortunate miss there because her spare ball actually rotates and hooks because she's getting a lot of leverage on her spare ball as well, unlike a lot of other bowlers her age. Excellent potential there. Bio bowling actually changed their jerseys. Quite interesting. Like change it to the orange. Interesting change in color. Looks like lightning. Not too bad, not too bad. More attractive. Okay, so I'll go from bio here. Oh, that's Ilya. Yeah, I actually coach Ilya for her school. So I'm not gonna say which school she attends. I don't want to dox her, but it's one of the CHIJ schools, right? There are many CHIJs in Singapore, but I actually coach Ilya in her school, so I'm her school coach. So Ilya here, she's from bio, and we can actually analyze a game. So overall fundamentals pretty good, but I've seen Ila bowl quite a few times. So her overall fundamentals are pretty solid. She's actually also aiming for the sports school as well. I don't know whether she gets in. She is, I believe, P5 this year. So I think she has one more year to go. Next year she'll develop her game, and then I think she has pretty good fundamentals. She should be considered for sports school. But she still has to develop her game a bit more. So good upright back position, and then shoulder a bit, bowling shoulder tilted, right, lower than the non-bowling shoulder. In this case, her stance opens up a bit more here. You can see that her right feet goes back a little bit further than the left feet. In my opinion, it's a little bit too much for a one-hander. So this kind of distance of the feet is more suited for a two-hander because this means that you open up your hips a lot more. But for one-hander, you actually don't need to open up this much. And then as we look at the rest of the game, so she leans forward when the ball goes down. Swing goes a little bit to the inside, not ideal. So it'd be more ideal if she goes a little bit straight. So instantly, the mistake that I see here is that Ilya's shoulders, right, as doesn't tilt down, or she doesn't keep a good space on the right side of her body. So her shoulders actually, she starts tilting her shoulders during the stance, but as she swings right, she goes back and has her shoulders very level. So when you have your shoulders very level, what happens is that you don't create enough of a gap on the right side of her body to swing the ball. So I think Ilya actually her body does what her body compensates by swinging around the body. So the ball swings around her hips instead. And actually this results in a release where she twists and turns the ball. So she twists and turns the ball. Actually, this is still not too bad, the release. I think she's improving on the release. So she used to spin her release a lot more when I see her bowl like in the like past 2 months or something like that. So she probably has been working with her coaches in Bio Academy on that. But I think the fundamental thing is that her shoulders need to open up a lot more. So as she release, so it's actually during here. Her hips actually, her hips need to open up a lot more, and she has to tilt her bowling shoulder a little bit lower. So create a bit more gap in the right side of her body in order for the ball to go through. So now she swings behind her body, but as she releases though, the release is decent. It's actually pretty good. So trailing leg, relatively extended, a bit too straight, relatively extended. Balance arm very straight. So bowling shoulder just a bit lower than a non-bowling shoulder. Like ideally, the bowling shoulder can be a bit lower here, can be tilted a little bit more, but the body tilts to the right side. So the finishing position is good, and I like her knee bend here. I think her knee bend is pretty good for her age. So she gets quite low to the ground. And if you look at just a finishing position here, it actually looks very good. The finishing position looks pretty decent. Now she stands out a little bit more. So just that the issue is probably in the second and third steps. So in the second and third steps, if she can actually get her hips to actually to make space for her swing, yeah, it might be a lot better. So here, when she actually does the ball placement, the problem is here. Her hips are a little bit too square, right? She doesn't open up her hips during when the ball swings down, so it doesn't make way for the swing. So if she can just fix this part, that's during the early part. This is like the second, is this the second step or third step? So let's go back. A little bit of early timing as well, starting in the beginning of the second step. Yeah, this is like the second and third step. If you could open up the hips a little bit more, so I think it might solve quite a few of the issues here. Okay. Okay, so we're nearing the hour mark. So let's see, maybe we check out a few more bowlers. Okay, we have Tasha here that I noticed. So on the left side here, Tasha, based on the name on the screen, pretty good fundamentals. So let's look at her stance. Back straight, right, back straight, eyes looking at target, right, looking further at the target down the lane. So yeah, feet and back relatively straight, so good fundamentals there. My only gripe is that her bowling shoulders are a little bit too upright. You can see that it's totally straight. So ideally, what you should have is that your bowling shoulder should be tilted a little bit lower than the non-bowling shoulder, even during the stance. So that would be ideal. Yep. So timing is also really good. So she moves the ball after the end of the second step. So let's take a look there. So 1, 2, and then as she moves into the third step, then she starts moving her ball here and her bowling hand. So that's really good timing. That's what we call the delayed ball placement timing, which all coaches I believe almost all coaches are trying to teach nowadays in Singapore. So it should help to delay the swing a little bit more so that the bowler can get more delayed timing upon release. So good, very good ball placement timing, good fundamentals. So you can see that she keeps her upper body upright, so she doesn't have that early upper body weight transfer that I've seen from one of the earlier bowlers, right? So delays that upper body weight transfer only as she swings her ball down, then she leans forward. So as her ball swings down, then she leans forward. But you can see that because her shoulders, right, her shoulders, the only gripe with her form is that her shoulders are too upright. So ideally, bowling shoulder should be lower. So hips should be opened up more to create more space for the ball to swing through. But during when she goes into a finishing position, everything is perfect. So at least her finishing position fundamentals are really good. Bowling shoulder lower than non-bowling shoulder. Balance arm parallel to the ground. Excellent, excellent knee bend. Fantastic. Like, I'm not seeing this kind of knee bend from anyone else in her age group, right? So this is the most fantastic knee bend I've ever seen. Then in this particular age group anyway. And then trailing leg is a little bit too straight. So I would like to see a trailing leg, especially the trailing leg knee, to be a little bit more relaxed. So you can actually relax the trailing leg knee a bit more. And then you can have it like this, right? A bit more relaxed like this, a bit more bent. So you don't apply that much strain. Like now her trailing leg is like totally straight. So other than that, it's like fantastic finishing position, excellent knee bend, and the shoulder tilt to the right side opens up a lot of space here. So only gripe is that I think during the stance as well. So similar to Ila's case is that during the when she does the ball placement, when the ball is swinging down, she doesn't open up her hips. So the ball doesn't swing underneath the hips. It has to swing around the hips. So that would actually lead to the fingers not being aligned, the bowler not being able to keep the fingers in the middle or under the bowling ball during the swing, and then they lose leverage on the ball during release. Okay, so for their age group, we can see that the ball is typically slower because they haven't learned how to maximize the momentum of the body yet. So their tempo is a little bit slower because they're still very young, they're still very short, small build. I can see LTR here generates a lot of power with a leverage. Okay, so it's okay. Second shot, very accurate. So Tasha, sorry, not Tanisha, Tasha here, very accurate because the fundamentals are really solid. Very accurate bowler, no problem sparring at all. Really confident in sparring. So I can say, so I'm gonna wrap up the analysis here. I can see that most of the bowlers in the Masters here, obviously they have really good solid fundamentals. This is very promising when it comes to future Singapore bowling. So the kids in the Masters here all have really good solid fundamentals, like not bad, right? Like this particular kid that we see here from Sprite as well. What's his name? Brian, right? Brian also looks really good. Good solid release. Okay, I'm seeing like a lot of these Sprite kids actually have this turning of the shoulder. So it's probably a system that they were taught. Turning of the shoulders there. Which personally I'm not a fan of because I think it leads to inconsistency when they turn their shoulders that much. But it does help them to generate the power. This stream isn't going well. Okay. So I believe it's no, it's a testament to the Strike Academy, I guess, for having so many of their male bowlers make it to the under 12 Masters. Or maybe their system is just, maybe their program is really more popular with the younger kids. But anyway, it's true that a lot of the strike kids are actually in the Masters here, and a lot of them have really good fundamentals, especially the boys. The only fan I'm not a fan of is the turning of the shoulders there. Oh, a two-hander. Yeah. Okay, just take a look at his game. Okay, pretty good fundamentals too. Upper body upright, bowling shoulder tilted lower than the non-bowling shoulder. Eyes looking forward at the break point and the arrows. Good. Looks good so far. 1, 2. So delayed timing, you can see that he moves his ball at the end of his second step. So because I can, okay, it's right side. So this is it Leighton? Yeah, I believe this is Leighton. So Leighton actually moves his starts his ball placement at the end of the second step. So 1, 2. Okay, he moves his hand a little bit early behind. So what he does to actually compensate is that he moves his hand a little bit behind and then forward. Still generally okay, I guess, but it's still a little bit early, the movement there. So the unideal part is just the swing. Okay, so I believe Leighton is also swinging inside out. see for sure. But looks like he's having issues with having enough space on the right side of his body. So it doesn't have enough space on the right side of his body. So I believe Leighton is also doing what I saw an earlier bowler do, which is swinging a little bit on the inside to out. So when you swing inside to out and you're not swinging in a straight line to the target, right? What it means is that the bowler has to use the body has to subconsciously change direction in the middle of the backswing. And that leads to a lot of inconsistency as well as it's harder to be accurate. And he has a very late release because actually Leighton doesn't straighten his elbows on downswing. So you can see how late his release was. So we can see that Leighton actually keeps his elbows bent, bowling elbows bent on the top of the backswing, which is okay. But ideally, right, as you go into the release, ideally the two-handed bowler should try to straighten their elbow on the downswing during release. So the issue is that for Leighton is not aware of that technique yet. So he keeps his elbows bent until after the release point. So he only straightens his hand here, but his ball has really gone beyond his feet. You can see that his ball has gone in front of his sliding feet. So when it's gone in front of his sliding feet, he has actually missed the break point. So he's actually releasing really late because his extension of his elbow came really late. So because of that, let's play it a bit. Let's see whether I can play it. So he has late release. So he releases his ball late, and it actually slows down his ball speed actually. He still gets a lot of rotation, but it actually slows down his ball speed, and it affects his consistency and accuracy as well. Yep. So that's actually late release. And Leighton can easily solve this by working on opening up the right side of his hips to allow the ball to swing through better, and also straightening his shoulders on the downswing earlier. So if you can straighten his elbows, sorry. If he straighten his elbows on the downswing earlier, then he can get a smoother release and the ball can be get into the release point a little bit earlier rather than so late. So now yes, having a delayed release and it actually kills the ball speed. So overall, still good fundamentals can be worked on. So he's quite frustrated that his ball overhooked there. Yeah, that's partially because of his late release as well. Because so a bowler like Leighton should struggle with sparing actually because of the late release. Wow, he's not even confident of releasing. He can feel that his ball is like really late. He feels that his ball is going to release really late because he's keeping his elbow bent for too long. So his spare ball is going to hook. Does he make this? Oh, well done. He makes it spare. So typically it's going to be a lot more difficult for a bowler like Leighton to spare because of the fact that he keeps his elbows bent for too long on the downswing. And for the orientation of his swing as well. Okay, so that's it for the under 12 analysis. So a lot of good bowlers here, and gonna end the analysis here. So thank you guys for watching the video. Hope it helps anyone in any way. So just a simple shout out for anyone looking for to improve their bowling, whether for yourself, adult, or like for the kids as well. Yeah, feel free to contact me. So my contact information is listed in the video description. You can contact me via mobile phone, via WhatsApp, or SMS, or you can call me as well on the number listed. And yeah, can contact me for lessons. And we will see you guys next time.